Hello viewers, finally the videos of the X10 equipment are getting recorded. This is a plug-in mini timer, and this is what I use to control the outdoor lights. So we have the timer itself, which is kind of large actually for being mini, and your power supply. So this timer, it's got a couple of different functions to it. It serves its purpose, and it works fine for what I want it to do. However, it definitely has a couple of drawbacks to it. The first one is the fact that this can never be used, at least for me, in a bedroom, because the backlighting is on all the time. It's very, very bright. I'm going to plug it in here. Now, as you can see, it is quite bright, and this will fully illuminate a room enough to be able to see where everything is and walk around without falling in the middle of the night. So even though this would be a great item for the bedside table because it's got the light controls and the time and everything on it, no go for me. Now, there is one major drawback to this X10 system, and that is the fact that it doesn't cross over phases. Most houses nowadays, within the last like 40-50 years or so even, have two phases coming into them from the electricity. And because this system uses the wiring in the house to transmit the commands to the other modules, it only works with the modules on the same phase. And unfortunately, in this house, the phase that the outside lights are plugged into and the phase the bedrooms work off of is different. And so as much as I'd like to have this up here in the computer room, just for convenience purposes, I can't, because it will not operate the lights downstairs. So I have to put this in the living room because it's on the same phase. Now this timer has 64 events. So you can set, let's see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, I think it does 8. Yeah, it does 8 different channels, and 64 events across those 4 channels. So if you want to turn something on and off more than once throughout the day, you can do that, which I do with this timer. What I typically do is I'll set it for maybe half an hour in the morning when I have to go to work and it's still dark out, and then I have it set for 7 or 8 hours in the evening after it gets dark out. The only thing this doesn't have, which I really wish it had, is the capacity to run a different schedule on different days, because I work 4 different shifts at my job, and there's some days I get up early and it's still dark out, and there's other days I don't get up before it's before the sun. And so then, even though I'm not awake, the lights are on even though I'm sleeping and nobody's seeing them. So that's kind of an unfortunate see. It doesn't have enough complexity for that application, but it does work just fine, and really I can pick up the manual remote and turn the lights on when I get up before I go to work anyways, so it's not something to complain about. So let's see here, set the clock. It takes a very long time to set the clock here. We are looking at 10:56. Oh no, 10:26. Okay, and we're going to go down to house code, and I'm going to use D, and let's go to program. So number 1, actually let me think about this for a minute. No, we'll go to number 3, because the tree downstairs will be number 1. Actually, we could do number 2. Number 2 on at, we'll turn it on at 4:30. $4.26, why not? And then we're going to turn it off. Whoops, no. On I just screwed it up here. We gotta set the time first and then press the button. So we're gonna do 4:30 again. Close enough. 4:30 on, and then I'm gonna turn it off at 11 o'clock. 10:50, sure, off. So now we have on at 4:35, off. Now, let's see here. If I wanted to do another on, whoops, we can do, let's say I want to turn it on at 8 o'clock in the morning. Actually, no, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. 6:30 we'll go with. 6:12 on. So now we have my on command at 4:35 and my on command at 6:12. So that's how it works. It's pretty easy to program and set it up, and like all these other machines, I found them to be very reliable. So I'm gonna go put this in its place downstairs, and I think if I put a battery in here, I can preserve my my program as I unplug it. Get 2 batteries here. Something's not quite right about that. Well, something's still not quite right about that. Well, that's fine. I don't really keep the batteries in there. I'm just going to do that so when I unplug it and put it downstairs, I don't lose what I just did. So it's actually remaining powered up, just without the obnoxious backlighting. Now, of course, it won't do any good if you have no power, because the modules aren't going to respond. Alright, so this is where this thing lives. Plug this up, and I'm going to pull the batteries out of here now because we don't lose power often enough around here at all to warrant having the battery backup everything. And we can make much better use of those batteries somewhere else. Alright, so it held the time. That's good to go. I'll just sit over there like that. You can't see it because this is in the way. That's where it's going to sit. And now let's plug in the outside light. This is where the outside lights plug in. So we're going to change this to number 2 and letter D. And go ahead and plug this in here. And now going to zoom in on something outside that you can see, not the screen. There we go. I'm going to go and test the controller now. And that appears to be working. So I got a little more programming to do on the controller. I'm going to perfect the times and everything, but that's essentially what happens for the outside lights. And then at some point later on, I'm going to add a remote upstairs, a wireless remote to the house D, so I can do a manual override of the timer from upstairs.